Hi, everybody. So I am redoing this video. For those of you who saw the live, this one will be slightly different because I was able to add more information into it. And I probably should have done it this way the first time, is really do a PowerPoint slide to be sure I get everything I wanted to get into it. But so the live version is no longer up, but I'm going to record this and then upload it as a premiere so we can talk about it as we're going through it. Okay, so again, this is threat modeling, domestic abuse via the Internet of Things. Okay, did you lock the door? A lot of us know this question. Okay, we heard it as a child all throughout our lives. So mom, dad, guardian, whomever, leaving the house, did you lock the door? You're coming in the house after playing outside, did you lock the door? You know, whether it's the house door, the car door, did you lock my door? You know, anything, okay? Did you lock the door? We are all familiar with this. And then we say it if we have children or little ones, you know, living with us, did you lock the door? I know I do. And it's not over yet. I'm sure I'm gonna say that phrase a lot more times. Well, when you ask the question, did you lock the door? What you're doing is you're checking your threat model, okay? Threat modeling is something that we do intuitively. We just don't call it threat modeling. So threat modeling is diagramming features in a system. Here, the system would be the house, okay? And a feature would be the door. We, in threat modeling, identify ways the feature can be compromised. So if the door is unlocked, a robber or stranger could just walk in uninvited. And implementing measures to respond to the possibility that those things could happen. So the measure that we implement, you know, just in case somebody would just arbitrarily walk in the door for whatever reason, we lock it. Okay, that's the response. So asking, did you lock the door, is ensuring you are adequately responding to a potential threat. And that's what we're going to be doing today, okay? Now, research says that nearly 50% of security flaws can be mitigated through threat modeling. And as far as cybersecurity professionals are concerned, threat modeling, as we understand it, is a procedure to create a plan to apply security measures in a system where we feel threats are possible or probable in order to prevent or at least minimize the impact of harm that it could cause to the information systems that we're working with and the people in the organization, okay? Now, there are various models we use in cybersecurity. These are some of them. Some of them are easier than others, like the DREAD model. That's very, very involved, okay? You really, need to know what you're doing to use that. But for the most part, when you look at all of these, there are about 4 primary steps that they go through, okay? And those steps are defining security requirements, creating an application diagram, identifying threats, mitigating threats, and validating that threats have been mitigated. That's 5, not 4. Okay, 5 primary steps, okay? Now, typically when we think of threat modeling, it's normally for applications. However, security teams, risk and compliance teams, and IT teams need to be threat modeling as well, all right? Now, this is an example. This is from threat modeling for beginners of an application, okay? So you see that they've diagrammed it here, and now they're looking for places where there could be potential vulnerabilities and threats to the application system. All right, but we all, as cybersecurity policy analysts, which is what I do, I'm primarily in the security and risk and compliance team. So the typical threat models were developer focused when I was looking to do this. Okay, so for me, it was kind of hard to grasp. Well, how do I actually do this? Because this diagram, this thing looks intimidating to me. Okay, so I had to search for, and I knew that there was an easier way for me to get this, all right? And I found it. I found that and a lot more, okay? In chapter 39 of this research paper, I read these ideas, okay? So the research papers are threat modeling, intimate partner violence, tech abuse as a cybersecurity challenge in the Internet of Things. Now, much of what you're going to see in this presentation is from this really, really phenomenal research, and I'm going to have links to everything I talk about in the description, okay? So these two statements are one reason why I'm doing this presentation, okay, and presenting this information to you, my cybersecurity colleagues. So the first one is the tech sector has so far ignored the potential challenges that IoT devices create and failed to implement technical responses to the daily privacy and security trade-offs that intimate partner violence victims and survivors must make. And the second one is technology designers should consider the usability of their inventions and acknowledge the distinct privacy and security requirements of IPV victims survivors. So again, one reason why I'm doing this presentation is because I was looking for a simpler way to learn to threat model, and I found it, so I wanted to share that with you all. And while the process for this is very similar when it comes to what we typically do in cybersecurity, there are some differences that we're going to talk about. Now, the topic area makes threat modeling, at least in my mind, it makes it a lot more reachable, and so for some of you looking, it may be even imperative, okay, given that we are threat modeling something that happens far too often in real life, all right, either to us or to people that we know. So presenting it this way makes threat modeling more than something that's good to know, our recommended practice. It's now personally meaningful and highly necessary, okay? Okay, so here I'm going to read 3 very real accounts from victims, survivors, of what they have experienced regarding tech abuse or abuse using digital devices or IoT. And of course, names are fictitious and pictures are fictitious here. But just give attention. When I say victims, survivors, I'm talking about people who either were victims or currently are still being victimized by an abuser. Okay, so that's what victim survivor is. All right, this is Jen. Jen's partner viciously abused her until she finally got help from a local domestic violence shelter in her community. Excuse me. Now, the shelter, they really did do a great job, helping her. They helped her relocate to a new place, a new state, actually. She was in a new state. She replaced her phone. They were able to help her get a job, erase her social media stuff, like anything that the abuser could use to find her, right? So she got a job in the new town, and it'd been 2 years since she left. So she was really feeling a sense of freedom until one rainy night when she came home from a party. She said she got in the house after coming home from the party. She parked the car. It was starting to rain. Okay, so she ran in the house, and then she realized she left something in the car. Well, she didn't want to ruin the new blue dress that she bought for the party. But she didn't want to wait to change because it was really starting to rain, and she didn't want to get caught in that. So she just quickly decided, let me just quickly run out there and just run back in and get what I need, which she did. She ran out to the car, got what she needed, ran back in the house, and immediately locked the door. Well, she said as soon as she locked the door, she got a message on her phone from an unknown number. Okay, and now let me show you what the number said. The message said, "Hey you, I hope you had a good day at work. How's the new job going? The weather is atrocious, isn't it? I always love that blue dress on you." It was a text from the abuser that she'd escaped from 2 years ago. He was right outside her house looking at her. Of course, she was terrified, okay? Luckily, nothing happened, and she took care of everything, but she found out later that information collected by her smartwatch enabled him to track her down. This is Steve. Steve said that he was kept prisoner in his own home through smart home technology. Now, his partner they had a lot of smart devices in their home, and his partner used every single one to monitor and control Steve. He said he was constantly monitored through the security cameras inside and outside the home. He said his partner would a lot of times force him to do a series of like really demeaning tasks on camera before his partner would allow Steve to come into the house, okay? While his partner was traveling on business. Now he's not even around, he's traveling on business. Steve would, anytime he would call Steve, Steve was expected to immediately respond to all of the calls, emails, text messages, anything. And Steve said if he didn't respond fast enough, his partner would remotely blast music, turn lights on and off, shut off the heat, like in the middle of the winter, okay? Until Steve, like to punish him for not answering fast enough. And then we have Stephanie. Now, Stephanie broke free from an abusive relationship. She went back to school. She earned her teaching degree while she was raising 2 small kids, right? Now, she was in the final stages of the hiring process at a school that she really wanted to work at when, during a background check and when they're checking references, she got a call from one of the school administrators, and they said they ran a search on her name on Google, and they found a lot of inappropriate social media posts on her page. And they said, we need you to take those down if we're going to move forward with this hiring process. So come to find out, Stephanie's former abuser was impersonating her and posting really damaging photos and stories, and I mean, just all kind of crazy stuff while pretending to be Stephanie. All right, so she attempted to get the things removed, and she said because of the abuser was not violating, what did they say, platform rules or something like that, she said. But at the end of the day, she did not get hired because she was unable to get those things taken down. Okay. Now, those are real stories that happen to real people by other real people who were once trustworthy people, okay? Now, being virtually monitored, controlled with digital devices, that absolutely has real world impact. And for a lot of people, very devastating consequences, including financial consequences, emotional, psychological, physical injury. Now, the threat model that we're going to walk through today is different than what we typically learn, talk about, and teach in cybersecurity, because the threat in this case was not always a threat, all right? The intimate partner, now this sounds like insider threat, but it's not, okay? It is different, it's similar but different than insider threat. The intimate partner was once a trusted person with whom the victim survivor openly shared everything, okay? There was no access control, okay? Shared everything from their favorite foods, their favorite teacher in school, favorite color, the songs they like, this deep, dark secret they never told anybody else, to, physical devices. They should use the same physical devices, the exact same network, same passwords, all of that, okay? All of that. And now this person has turned and is using all of this information and access to further abuse the victim, survivor, okay? Who is the threat? So there are many areas in life where the digital world has come together with the analog world. And the cybersecurity profession has little to no awareness of a lot of these places, okay? Domestic abuse enabled by digital devices is one of the places that before I did this research, that never would have crossed my mind as a cybersecurity issue, okay? And maybe for some of you it has, but for a lot of us, it has not. So who is the threat in intimate partner violence? Here's another quote from the research. The threats deriving from IPV are almost absent in the cybersecurity literature as well as practice, and even less of a discussion point in the emerging field of IoT. Now for us, cybersecurity professionals, in addition to hacktivists, script kiddies, other common threat actors we learn and talk about, we have insider threats and APTs, or advanced persistent threats, like this image right here. Now, according to CrowdStrike's adversary universe on their website, this image right here represents the group Carbon Spider, which is a highly skilled criminal group. They specialize in stealing payment card data. And recently, like I believe the website says as of 2020, they've now started in ransomware campaigns. Now, according to the IPV abuse study, current cybersecurity threat models involve assumptions about likely threats and attackers, and can reflect biases and blind spots as seen in the exclusion of IPV perpetrators from our list of threat actors. Okay, we don't have that in our mental model and decision making for when we do threat models. We just don't have that in there. Okay, now I'm just stating a fact. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just stating the state of affairs. All right, now while very similar to the threat model we're going to use today, what we're doing now, so compared to our threat models, the IPV threat model is a lot softer, okay? And it's more holistic in that it's more like a SWOT analysis diagram, like the one you see here, because it looks at more than vulnerabilities and controls, all right, in the creation of it and the analysis of whether or not it was effective. So also, hardening vulnerabilities is not the go-to response in the one we're going to do today, which it typically is, for what we do in cybersecurity. In the IPV model, the idea is to further enable what you want to happen. Further enable. Again, this is like one of my other presentations I talked about. We can't keep just looking at threats. We have to look at, well, what are the capabilities? Okay, not just the weaknesses that are in the system. What are the system's capabilities? And build on those capabilities. And this is what this model does, okay? While at the same time diminishing the impact of what you don't want to happen. So it enables what you want to happen, further enables what you want to happen, and diminishes impact of what you don't want to happen, just in case it does, okay? Which is a different kind of way of thinking about this, about threat modeling. Now, how would you design to enable what you want and diminish impact or influence on what you don't want? Well, design is subjective on the part of the designer and the user of the design, okay? Because at the end of the day, I don't care how much we plan and how many threat models we do, we will never think of all the ways people will choose to use what we make. We just won't, okay? Now that's where this book is in. This is The Design of Everyday Things. I've talked about this numerous times by Don Norman. And please, I recommend you read the whole thing. But here I want to share three ideas with you, okay, that I want you to take note of from the book. Number one, emotion is highly underrated. And in our threat models, we have to consider the idea that cognition attempts to make sense of the world, but emotion assigns value. Number two, design influences behavior, which simply means whatever you design, okay, the application, the network, the policy, the house, whatever you design is biased in a certain direction. That does not mean it's good or bad. It just means it's biased in a certain direction. What you design is going to influence how people use it, okay? And number three, context is king. Content is what's happening. Context is the situation in which it's happening. Now I'm going to show you these three ideas, okay, right now. Let me give you a demonstration of what I mean by this. This is a soccer ball in America. Okay, every place else around the world, I believe this is a football. All right. Now, the primary use for this is in games where the purpose is to kick the ball in the opposing team's goal to gain points. All right. But you can use this ball to play kickball, dodgeball, to keep a door propped open when you're bringing in the groceries, and on and on and on and on. It just depends on, what's the context and if this ball can meet a particular need. All right. In that context. Now, let me show you this same ball in another context. I think y'all know where I'm going with this. This is Tom Hanks playing Chuck Nolan in Castaway. Very good movie. Haven't seen it yet. If you haven't seen it yet, it's about a man who's stranded on a deserted island for 4 years with only his friend Wilson here as a companion. Okay. The manufacturer is Wilson. Okay. So he called the ball Wilson. He cut his hand one day and threw the ball because he was upset. And he saw that his hand, if you put some eyes and stuff in it, it kind of looked like a person. Okay. Emotion assigns value. That was point 1. Emotion assigns value. How valuable, for those of you who saw the movie, and for those of you who didn't, how valuable do you think Wilson? 4 years, just him and this ball. How valuable was Wilson to the character that Tom Hanks played? He was very valuable. Towards the end of the movie, Wilson fell off the raft, and Tom, the character he played, was devastated. Just crying and so sad. I cried. Okay, listen, I cried. Wilson was valuable to everybody in the audience. We were all sad. Okay, when Wilson fell off the raft, because emotion assigns value. Okay, that's point 1. Point number 2, design influences behavior. Now, Wilson, this ball is round. People's faces are relatively round. And you see that Wilson has eyes and nose and mouth and hair in the same places where a human face would have those features. Okay. Now, seeing Wilson as a human face is easy because of the design. The design of the ball is biased in that direction. You see what I'm saying? If Wilson was a hockey stick or a twirling baton, it wouldn't be as easy, to see a face in that. You know what I'm saying? So that's design influences behavior. He was able to see Wilson as a face and then use it in that way. Talk to him, face to face. And the last one, context is king. Content is a man and a soccer ball. That's the content. The context or the situation is that they're both stranded on a desert island for 4 years with no other humans around. Okay. That determined how this ball was used. Okay. And it was very valuable. I'm sure it probably, even though we would think somebody talking to a ball is insane, this ball probably helped him keep his sanity, because he was able to talk to it. You know what I'm saying? Design is very, very, very important. Okay. As are these 3 points that I've just made about it. And they're going to come up again, okay, when we get to the threat modeling exercise. Okay, here's another very quick example. This is an input device, as we all know, it's a keyboard, we all use this. So the purpose of it is for us to use our hands, fingers, and typing skills to give commands to the computer by entering characters and functions and by pressing the keys, all right? Now here's something that you can type. Somebody typed this. Apparently, if you look there in the URL, it says nude girls, naked women, hot girls. To dealer room, Wall Street trade. Subject confidential email. Hello, John. Apparently Bob is writing this to John. Please buy 1,000 stock shares of our company. Don't tell anyone because it will influence the stock. And of course, it is illegal to trade stock with pre-knowledge, smiley face. Use my credit card number. There's his credit card number, which expires on this date. And the card security code on the back is 123. Okay, so Bob just sent this email to John, okay, on a keyboard, which is is how we do that. Like we use a keyboard or a touch screen or whatever to do that. This is that same email. Okay, and on the bottom right, you have the corresponding keylogger that has tracked and stored Bob's keystrokes. Now, whoever installed this keylogger has a lot of good information, okay, that they're probably going to do something with. All right, so design influences behavior. The malware that was created for keyboards and tracking keystrokes, you know, uses the same design in order to do that. Okay, the same design of the keyboard in order to do that. Okay. Okay. How IoT enables abuse. So intimate partner violence is about finding and using vulnerabilities in smart devices and people, not just smart devices. They're looking for vulnerabilities in people too. Okay, because the goal is to influence an intimate partner's thinking, decisions, and behavior. Now, what does that sound like? Okay, I'll tell you the similarity in a little bit. So let's look a little bit more closely at these devices, because I want to be sure everybody knows what I mean by IoT and smart devices. Okay, because you know, this presentation is not just for cyber professionals, it's for individuals who may be in situations like this or know of people who are in situations like this. So I want to keep it as simple as possible. So let's go ahead and look at a video of a smart home so you can see all the devices in there. Now, this is only like a 2-minute and some change video, but give attention to what the devices are, where they are, and what they do, okay? Okay, that was a really nice house, okay, with a lot of devices that did a lot of amazing things, okay? So now that we see what smart devices are and what they can do, what they're capable of, and they're more than what was in that video, okay? We're gonna look at something that was created as a result of a study that was done by Avast and Refuge, which is a nonprofit organization in the UK. They did some research called the most commonly reported IoT devices used as enablers of abuse. And with that research, they created what you see here, this house, okay, which is called the Interactive Home Safety Tool. And it includes the devices, and according to the abuse survivors, where these devices usually were in the house, okay? Again, context is king. So we're going to go through what were these 10 devices that were most commonly used in domestic partner abuse, or IPV abuse, okay? The doorway in the kitchen, they said smart locks, CCTV, Ring doorbell or video doorbell. So these devices, these 3 devices, I see Alexa, we'll get to Alexa in a minute, but these 3 devices can enable an abusive person to see and hear everything within range of the camera and microphones, which can then allow them to monitor what the victim survivor is doing and anybody else in the house, and use that information to cause even further harm, okay? Now, of course, Amazon Alexa, everybody knows about Alexa. Okay, Alexa just tells all your business, and people be listening in, and all kinds of stuff goes on with her. So in addition to listening to anything the audio picks up, abusers can use Alexa by commanding her or the device to do things like play music, send video messages, and this kind of stuff can gaslight a victim, okay? Now, if you don't know what gaslighting is, it's a form of psychological abuse where somebody does things that make somebody else question their sanity. You know, they're like, or their memory. Like, I thought I did this, but it looks like it wasn't done, you know? And people who experience gaslighting, they feel confused, they're anxious, and they kind of stop trusting themselves, you know? So that, I mean, gaslighting can be really detrimental. Okay. The next 4, the Nest Smart Thermostat, okay, which is a smart product from Google. Wireless systems. So Wi-Fi, when it comes to the wireless systems, Wi-Fi can give someone access to all devices connected, you know, on your wireless system, all right? And the Nest is like, you know, it includes, you can use your Nest account to include like smart speakers, thermostats, and fire alarms and stuff like that. Okay, now with Google Hub, so Google Hub is like Alexa in that it's a virtual assistant, but it powers, you know, all kinds of Google smart home devices, right? Now this device would allow an abuser to make changes to any devices connected to it to aid in physical and psychological abuse, okay? And then of course we have a smart TV. I have like 3 smart TVs in my house. So when someone has access to your smart TV, they can also make changes on it, you know, which could be confusing or intimidating for the victim. And I didn't know that some smart TVs came with embedded mics and cameras. I didn't know that. So I'm gonna have to check mine because I don't know if it does or not. And the last 2, in the bedroom and bathroom, you have smart plugs. Smart plugs, this was new to me. I did not know that smart plugs can make devices that aren't smart, okay? So those that are not smart enabled, they can become smart. So like the lamp on the side of your bed, right, can be activated through an app or voice commands when it's attached to a smart, I had no idea. Now, smart plugs can be misused by someone turning on appliances in your home remotely to scare or harm you. You know, that would be really frightening. And then of course, a smartwatch. So the smartwatch has access to your life, okay? These things, they know your location. You have all your messages, your call logs, your calendar, every single thing an abuser would want in order to completely control and monitor you. Is all they need is a smartwatch, all right? So these things can be really devastating, you know, for victim survivors. Threat model exercise. Okay, let's get to it. Now, IPV is about finding and using vulnerabilities in smart devices and people. We said that. Now, the thing that IPV threat actors do have in common with the threat actors we typically think of in cybersecurity is that for many, their desire, their ultimate desire is to own a system. In the case of intimate partner violence, the system is another human or a human family, okay? That's what they're looking to own. That's what they're looking to monitor and control, is another human being, okay? So there are 6 things before we get to it that I want you guys to keep in mind. Number 1, an IoT system or a smart device that's used to abusively monitor and control another person, you can't view that as purely a technical issue. Social and technical goes together, which means when you're coming up with countermeasures with those technical things, we have to have some social there too. But for the sake of this discussion, what we're doing today, I'm going to stick primarily to the technical, but I do, just want you to keep that in mind, that there is going to have to be more than just, these technical fixes that we're going to be talking about. A lot more has to be done for both individuals involved, or however many are involved in this IPV situation. Number 2, the goal of the IPV threat model is to reduce risk of IoT misuse and intimate partner abuse, to reduce risk, okay? Number 3, what we're going to go through now is going to be a simple and abbreviated explanation, because while this is, like I mentioned before, to inform the cybersecurity practitioners who will see this, it's also for anyone watching that's in an abusive situation and or of someone in an abusive situation, okay? So I don't want to make this super complicated and, so that now folks can understand what's going on. So the next one will be threat modeling a smart lock. But the process we're going to go through can be used for any internet connected device, okay? Any smart device. Next, we're using a system-based threat model where the smart device is the primary system, okay? And lastly, responses, when we come to that part, are actions that the app developer can take. Okay, and you're going to see all of this once we get there. So again, we're threat modeling a smart lock, this one right here, which is purposed to allow locking and unlocking of doors, both in the home and remotely while you're there, okay, on premise and remotely. Now there's 4 steps to an IPV threat model, and these are similar, okay, to some of the ones that you'll see in cybersecurity already. Model, show, suggest, and evaluate, okay? So we model the system, we show how features in the system can be misused, we suggest responses for those areas, and we evaluate the results. All right, model. This is a very simple diagram of the smart lock system, okay, which includes the physical door lock, a physical smart lock device, 2 people, an owner and a device, an owner and a guest, 2 smartphones, 2 smartphone apps, Bluetooth connection, Wi-Fi connection, and the company's web servers. Now, some other system information that can be added or considered in this diagram is the smart lock records which users lock or unlock the door, and it stores the data on an app and in the web server, and that data is normally like an email address and password, okay? The owner is the administrator and has more privilege than the guest, all right? That's the way it's been designed. So that means the owner can see the activity log, invite new users to be owners or guests, and he or she can configure when and for how long guest users can lock or unlock the door. The owner can also remove guests at will. Now this model can be much more detailed and involved, because you do have like the router, the ISP, that I'm sure somebody's paying a bill somewhere in here. Okay, so there's a lot more going on here, when you have the time and the people and the resources to be able to really, delve into this and what's going on. But this works perfectly for what we're trying to do. Okay, now we're going to show how specific features can be misused, all right? So we have it's an owner-based system. Okay, so one way, now there are many other ways than what I'm talking about here, and you'll see that when you see the research for yourself. But account owners can control victims by tracking the exact times that a victim and other residents enter and exit the home. Okay, that's one thing that can go wrong. As far as the physical smartphone, the abuser can steal the victim's or a guest's physical smartphone and or their login credentials, then gain access to the property, even if they've been, thrown out by the victim. The smart lock account, the software application, an abuser can coerce or guess the victim's smart lock account details. And if they've been together for a very long time, guessing probably won't be hard, okay? Now, and if they do that, that allows logging into the victim's account on the abuser's own phone. They don't have to steal the victim's phone. Now, if an abuser tries to enter the victim's property with an unauthorized smartphone, the victim is going to get a constant barrage of notifications, which can produce anxiety and psychological distress, seeing that the abuser is attempting to enter the home. All right. And then we have data, of course, and information. We have our CIA happening here, where the abuser can tamper with the logs and erase evidence that they or any other person was locked or unlocked the door. Okay. Now we're going to move to suggest. Now, before we get to, so this is suggest possible responses. The responses depend on the context. Okay, so we have 3 phases of intimate partner violence here that affect how IoT devices are used from a security perspective. And you'll see a description of each over here. In the darker blue is where the abuser has physical access to the survivor and their devices up until they're trying to escape. So, okay, so they're half in and half out. All right, so the things that they're doing as far as privacy and security are related to that. And then we have life apart. When they've finally gotten away, the abuser no longer has access or control over the person or their devices. Now, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, they have a webpage of technology tips for domestic violence and stalking, where one tip is to change passwords frequently and keep them private. That will not work safely for the victim in the physical control and possibly some places in the escape. That could really raise the level of risk and raise their, the possibility that they're really going to be hurt very, very badly if they do that. Okay, so that would not be a response that could be carried out. Okay, so it really depends on where the victim is in these phases. And I just want to go through that before we get to the possible responses. All right. Now, these responses are for the application developer. These are things that they can do on their end to help make these individuals safer. Okay. Now, this is about design choices. Because why? Design influences behavior. Now, some design decisions can enable harm and abuse more easily than others, which is what we're looking at here. So instead of looking to avoid the risk by just removing that feature, okay, let's just take that out so they don't have to worry about that. We're not going to do that, okay? And we're not going to harden anything here either, okay? Not really. What we're going to do is we're going to look to enable the usability of these features for the victims and hinder usability for the abusers, all right? So starting with the first one, the owner-based system. One possibility is to restrict ownership. So you can't just restrict owners from having access to the application. Okay, that's just not going to happen. But what you can do, application developers and security designers, they can give owners less exhaustive authority over the smart lock system. Now, this could include a security protocol, which could allow the company to remove an owner in very, exceptional circumstances, like if there's a request by domestic, from a domestic violence order or something, okay? Physical smartphone compromise. Something we can do here is report theft feature. You can add that, which could be activated from the victim or survivor's web account to minimize access, that the abuser may have over the device, like their smartphone. The smart lock account or the software application abuse, for that one, we can look at the access trails. So for that, IoT devices would be able to notify other users every time another account holder looks at the logs, the access logs, which could possibly prevent just obsessive checking. Why they're just constantly, and it could be something that could be a warning to somebody. Maybe the physical or mental abuse hasn't started yet, but you see, okay, every 30 minutes, this person is looking at the logs, like what is going on, So it really could be a red flag, that something is happening here, all right? And for the data information, unchangeable logs. So for this one, victims may need to provide proof that, hey, I had this protective order and, this person has violated it. Okay, so now they have proof where before the owner may have been able to change the logs to show that they were in there. Now they can't. So the access logs showing who's accessed the app, who's locked the door, unlocked the door, they can be provided to a judge or whomever to prove violation of a court order, for example. Okay. And then finally, we want to evaluate, we got to know the extent to which the model worked in reducing risk of IoT misuse and victim abuse. Okay, and we're going to do that in a lot of different ways. Especially getting information from multiple data sources, because that really helps to it helps to mitigate the risk of bias, of too much bias in one direction. All right, so because we want to have that collective thinking going on when it comes to, okay, so what are the populations that we're considering, and what do they say about how this can be used? All right, in a safer way. Now, while the idea of IPV threat modeling is not widely known or discussed in the cybersecurity profession, some people have picked up on it. As I mentioned, this study was from the UK, and the UK has created an IoT code of practice, which is really, really good, where the aim of it is, for everybody involved. Is really to support, that's from the people who develop IoTs, the manufacturers, retailers, all that. It's a set of guidelines to be sure that the products are secure by design. Okay, and that's where we're looking to go, secure by design. I'm sure there's other things out there, but the UK is really, they seem to be leading in this area. Now, if you can predict it, you can protect it. Before I go, let me give you a few final thoughts here. Okay, so number one, threat modeling is something we all do it. We do it anyway. We all do it. All right. We just don't call it that, and we don't notice the steps that we take, but we do it. Okay. So it's not just easy, it's intuitive. When it comes to the human and non-human things that we value, it's intuitive. We just intuitively do threat modeling. Okay. Now, everyone, this is Cheryl talking here. Everybody in the cybersecurity field should learn and practice threat modeling. What are you protecting and securing? What are you writing policy for? What are you training employees on and doing pen testing on if you have no idea what a threat model is? Okay, a lot of that is happening right now. Securing of what? From what? For what? Okay, we don't have the answers to those questions, but we're just in there doing stuff. Even if you have to do it on your own, by yourself, and nobody cares, just do it, okay? Gather some information and just do it, right? Which is why I was looking to find out, okay, how do I actually do this, right? Because I've not seen, since I've been in the cybersecurity profession, a threat model. okay, for any of the organizations that maybe they keep it secret or something, I don't know. But I just need to know, I need to know that information, okay? So lastly, with the holidays coming up, we have, you know, choices to make about gift ideas for friends and families. Now, where we know or suspect that someone on our Christmas list is in an abusive situation, let's think twice about gifting them a smart device, because it could end up causing copious amounts of harm in an already terrible situation. So these are some pictures that I just took today when I went to Target, just to look for, you know, these are some smart devices that are there and available and on sale. You know, they're really cute and they're really nice. They're very, very nice. But, you know, if you do know somebody in that situation, or if you are in that situation, you know, let's go down a different aisle, or ask first. You know, I know that something is happening, and I was thinking about, you know, getting this for y'all. Like, what do you think about that? This is what it's capable of. Is that something that you feel, you know, would just make your situation worse? Okay, so at least you don't have like a little short conversation or something like that first. All right. I am Cheryl Abram, aka Person-Centered Cyber. Please like and share the video if you found it helpful, useful. And if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you all hanging out with me and, you know, being here for me to do this again. So again, I do appreciate it. And I'm going to stop recording and I'll see you.